Hello and welcome to Public Access America. This is Just the Tip. Hey everybody, welcome back to Public Access America. We're back from vacation with a great new episode. Hey, we brought Adam in from Adam Has a Beard, and I'm joined by my co-host Jeffrey as always. And we're going to talk about the gun discussion, some of the policies that are being suggested, and how gun owners might feel about them. It's a real great conversation. We just finished it up over on YouTube at Public Access America. You can find our podcast anywhere you find your favorite podcast, because that's what you do. You're an informed listener, and I love you. And that's what I want to say. My Just the Tip is have these conversations with people that it matters to. You can't tell people what to do, but you can ask them how they feel about it. This is Public Access America. Let's get into it. Thanks for being here. We love you. Just the tip. Just the tip. Just the tip. Just the tip. Thank you.
It is time now for something positive.
We might be headed to the promised land,
of speaking the truth
and finding our external liberty once we internally liberate ourselves.
The problem can only be solved when there is a kind of coalition of conscience.
Because that is how it works.
This is the beginning, it is not the finale, and that's why we're here, and that's why we rally.
We've got to be that creative minority.
Find a way to get in the way. I got in trouble. It was good trouble. It was necessary trouble.
Frankly, I know we've got to do something.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Public Access America. My name is Jason, his name is Jeffrey, and his name is Adam. And Adam, I just worship. He's from Adam Has a Beard. He's my friend. He's our brother. He is our cuddle puddle, Mr. Wonderful, and I love it. And I don't know, I wanted to bring you on because there's something, I don't want to dive straight into it, but there's a conversation lacking. Like, people are attacking locally in Uvalde, they're attacking the police because the media wants to be mad at that. We're attacking like politicians and they're defending their stance not based on any conversation, but nobody's asking like gun owners, here's a list of things, is that outrageous? And so I wanted to get my two favorite gun owners on, because you guys are what I call rational, responsible gun owners, not radical, irresponsible. And so I really wanted to get you on to just discuss some of that stuff, you know? But I do want to start, and I'm going to start with Jeffrey and ask, I mean, we had Buffalo, we had the shooting between a Chinese guy and a Taiwanese guy that keeps getting forgotten. We've had like, I think 30 mass shootings, because now the media is counting every mass shooting as more than one person shot. So it's increasing all of that. But how is all this in Buffalo and Uvalde and all of that going on? How is that making you feel as a gun owner?
Oh, shit. Well, I'm going to approach this from two standpoints. There's as an educator, because I used to teach shooting, and then as an actual gun owner, they don't feel good. Like, let's be real honest, it doesn't feel good, because every possible thing that should have, every possible thing that happened, not only could it have been prevented in a lot of different ways, but the response processes and mechanisms that should have taken place didn't. And
yeah,
it literally was broken up one side and down the other. And
right.
And what's really frustrating is that, when we talk about the national conversation, you have to remember that it's not right now, it's not just a national conversation, because there is a lot of power left to the states to decide this stuff. And
well, I think there's a local conversation to have about the response. I think there's a statewide response that the people in the states need to have for their representatives, but us being national and not from these places directly, I think we need to have that broader conversation about the policies people are suggesting.
Right.
Instead of 4 senators in Senate saying, "Well, this is what we," no, let's ask gun owners if it's good or bad or
Well, and
not.
that's the problem is that you're going to like anything else, you're going to see a gambit of responses and from gun owners. You'll have the group of people that any law on guns is an infringement is what they'll claim, and then
Right.
you'll have the people who are like, well, I'm a gun owner, but this makes me feel so bad that I'm turning in my guns.
Right.
And all of that response is it's very wide, it's very broad, and none of it actually addresses the issues. And I do think
Right.
that some of the issues got touched on, and we'll dive into that more.
Okay. I wanted to ask Adam, Adam, are you more worried about gun safety? Are you more concerned about getting safer uses and practices, or are you worried about Democrats being handed the ball and being shoved down a slippery slope?
I'm more worried about that slippery slope, honestly, because
Yeah.
I mean, everybody
Right.
that I know is more safety oriented and is okay with all the restrictive laws. It's like, yeah, okay, well, don't touch
Right.
my weapons. That's cool. But you know what? Okay, you want us to jump to these hoops? Cool, we'll jump to those hoops. Oh, you want stricter background checks? Great, that's fine. We're gonna pass them. That's
Mhm.
just fine. But what's
Yeah.
happening is that slope is like infringing on every little thing you could possibly think of. So if you had a traffic ticket that involved a jaywalker that was holding a joint, now it becomes a felony
Right.
hit and run. And guess what? Now you've got some kind of weird shit on your background,
Yeah.
right? So now your background checks are coming back weird. So with these Democrats trying to run the show, guess what? Okay, well, what is it that you're actually after? Is it the dollar? Is it
Mm.
what's your agenda here? I mean,
Right. Well, they want to make people safe, but I think they have a different view of it.
100%.
And that's everything. That's why I wanted to put some of this stuff up there just to not put a party on it. But these are suggestions from every town. They do research and they have a whole bunch of suggestions, and some of them I don't like. Like this first one about, let's just talk about red flag laws. Like what you were saying, I have a real issue on who's determining what a red flag
Right.
is. And we've talked about people using laws as weapons. So I want to ask Jeffrey kind of about that. Do you see that as the slippery slope right there that we need to worry about?
Well, so historically speaking, let's talk about using laws as weapons. So to understand, where the NRA kind of took a weird left turn.
Mm-hmm.
So back in the 60s, the NRA did not really support black people having guns. In fact, there was a lot of
Right.
issues surrounding the Black Panthers owning firearms.
Lots.
Now, lots of issues, and as Adam is fully aware of, people of color having guns was a major problem.
Mhm.
One of the things that needed to be addressed was, when you looked at the Second Amendment, did the Second Amendment provide that every American was allowed to and responsible for guns? And so you actually saw the NRA propose restrictions on gun ownership at that time, but those restrictions were proposed not on the idea of safety for all firearms owners. It was about the safety of white people from black firearm owners. And so when you look at the laws and how people want to create laws and how they're applied,
Right.
it's very different, because I can understand why somebody wants certain laws to be in place. But when you look at the application, you have to remember that a lot of this comes down to discretion, and
Mm-hmm.
and I am going to benefit from that discretion in a way that Adam is not. And
Right.
that's just a
Like
real
Adam
answer.
said, it's a misdemeanor or it's a felony. It's up to that person to decide what to charge with, right?
Yeah, it seems like it.
And that's what I worry about. A red flag law, yeah, that should determine somebody, but if you use it in one way for a certain set of people and another way for a certain set, then I'm not for that when we don't need that. When background checks should be enough. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I mean, you already
Or
have your background checks, your fingerprinting, you got your semen samples, your blood samples, you got your hair
right,
follicles,
right,
you got
right.
drug tests, you got these psychological evals. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
But then you also want to triple lock every weapon in every, gun law abiding citizen's locker. Okay, that's cool. I already got like 4 safes in my
Right.
house. Every single one of my fucking guns has a trigger lock in them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that with those people who are, I don't know, I don't want to say as vigilant as I am, but I want to protect my kids. I don't want my kid,
Mhm.
my kid to go out and grab my pistol or my AR and take it to school, and
Right.
then all of a sudden we have a shooting situation where I'm going to be in trouble for, because as a parent I'm responsible for. So I think that
You should be,
oh,
right?
100%. Oh, 100%, dude. If you're going to leave your shit around the house and your kids are going to go because they have some kind of mental instability because you're a shit parent, guess what? That is right back onto your shoulders. Guess who's paying for that? You are. Guess who's going to jail? You are. Guess who's going to
Yeah.
live with the guilt for the rest of their life? The parent. You know what I mean?
Well, I think that should be something that's official. If you want to give your 14-year-old an AR-15, then that's your shit. That's you're
100%.
responsible for that, and you
Mhm.
need to take some sort of insurance out
Yep.
for that. And I want to say that I am talking to two guys that believe in education and training and doing that for youth as
Oh,
well.
100%.
I
So
used to teach.
these,
I used to teach youth. That's the thing. Is
but
that's where I got
you
my
guys
start.
aren't.
Yeah.
You're not the people with 4 guns just laying around under couch
Nope.
cushions and like to open
Jesus
bottles
Christ.
and stuff.
Hell no.
You know what I
Wait,
mean?
you can
Like,
open a bottle?
so heck
Yeah,
yeah, I
all you got
watched
to
The
do is just put
Simpsons.
the barrel right up and
But seriously, though, you're right, Jason. I mean, between Jeffrey and I mean, we must have a good small
Yeah.
arsenal to supply a small country, but
Right.
we're not
Right.
leaving our shit around. We have
my stuff's locked up.
Oh,
Right.
100%. I mean, I don't care if I'm here by myself. My weapons are still locked up. I don't care if my kids are laying in the
Right.
next room. My weapons are still locked up because there's that element of safety. Are they
Mhm.
accessible to me? Oh, 100%. Real quick. I mean, how many times? What does it require? Practice, right? Training. You got to, if you're in a dead sleep, all of a sudden your dog wakes you up. Boom. What's the first step? You're
Yeah.
already trained. You've already gone through this. You're already
Mhm.
half asleep.
Mhm.
Boom, boom. You know where everything's at. You're lock and loaded. Everybody knows what they need to do. They need to duck and hide because no one in your flock is a alpha wolf. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so
And
everybody that I know
we just
is training. So
Mhm.
we just had a guy crash about a mile down the road, and he took off, and he was in the woods, and my roommate texted me, and they were like, "Hey, there's a escaped convict in the woods. My gun's in the other room." And I was like, "You're an asshole because you're telling me like 20 minutes after it happened, and now your gun's on the other side of the house, and I got to walk through it, through the open door house to get to it." And I was like, I want a shotgun. I want a double barrel shotgun because it's intimidating and it's like just what I
Yeah.
want.
And that's the thing is like, so I want to approach this conversation. I want to start with the education aspect of it.
Yeah.
Because I used to teach, and I used to teach hunter safety, and I taught firearm safety on the range. I was the only person that
Thanks for that, by the
I
way.
was the only person on the range that I taught at that was non-military. And I took it dead serious because it literally, it is life or death, and especially because
100%.
I was handling live firearms.
Mhm.
It's everybody gets complacent around unloaded guns, but the reality is that if you don't think about it, how do you know that gun is not loaded? So
It is loaded.
to give you some ideas, it's like I was responsible for watching the student that I was teaching, and I was responsible for making sure that they handled their firearm safely. I was responsible for giving them concise and clear instructions, and I was also responsible for if they are not listening, then it is my duty to remove that firearm.
100%.
And the one of those things, it's like everybody's excited when it's time to shoot, because it's fun. It really is. Shooting is
Mhm.
fun, but that fun can go away really quickly when somebody gets shot.
Yep.
And it
Right.
is incumbent that, yes, we all want to have fun, but we have to do it safely. We have to do it with safety in mind. And when you have a kid who is not listening to instructions, who's flagging the range,
Right.
who's fucking barrel
Pointing it
sweeping,
anywhere he wants.
barrel
Right.
swept me 3 times. I had no problems failing that kid and removing that firearm
Right.
from them. And the reason why is they weren't ready for it.
Yep.
Because if you're not going to listen to instructions and you're not going to pay attention, you're going to get hurt. You're going to either get hurt or you're going to get somebody hurt or killed.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's
gun owner safety
and
training,
and
right?
that's the thing is that at what point do you have the national conversation of whether or not somebody is ready to own a firearm? Because the reality is that at 18 anybody can own a firearm. The problem is like anything else, are they actually ready to own a firearm?
Because education is so important, Jeffrey. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought to myself, I wouldn't mind an 8-year-old with a bow and arrow. I wouldn't mind a 12-year-old with a revolver. I wouldn't mind a 16-year-old with a long gun. Like, I wouldn't mind that person in that education system getting a semi-automatic at 18, and then maybe like at 25 getting an AR-15 or something.
But here's the thing,
more
when you talk about a semi-automatic versus an AR-15, what do you think an AR-15 is? It's a semi-automatic.
a longer semi-automatic with more capacity.
I had semi-automatics that weren't AR-15s.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, right. But an AR-15 is uniquely different than a Glock.
Well, I mean, an AR-15 is uniquely different from a Glock, but you can still have a semi-automatic hunting rifle that's not an AR-15.
Okay, right.
And so functionally there is no difference. Yeah,
I'm just using AR-15 to stand alone as that whole style of weapon.
One of the things that we have to look at, is this quote unquote military style weapon. What you're looking at in reality is, let's talk about semi-automatic versus manual actions, aka bolt action, pump action, lever action. A lot of those weapons, a lot of those guns have very strict limitations on how much ammo they can carry. Most hunting rifles are 5+1. Most shotguns are 3, 4, 5+1. Lever actions, it depends on how the lever action is set up, but you can get lever actions that are 10+1. And the reality is that a person with a lever action who knows how to shoot is just as deadly as somebody with a semi-automatic who doesn't know what the fuck they're doing. Thing is that a person, like, part of the national conversation hasn't been, it's like everybody thinks about AR-15s, but let me ask Adam, what kind of damage do you think I could do with a shotgun that has double-aught buck in it and is a 5+1?
A lot of damage, let me tell you, with that big giant massive fucker. Dude.
Exactly. And that's the thing is that I only need to pull the trigger once and there's 10 to 12 30 caliber pellets that are going to spray over an area.
Big time, dude. Yeah.
And that's the thing.
I think a child that knows what it's like to kill something with a bow and arrow begins to learn the consequences before they're using that thing that can kill multiple lives. So that's where I see the training as important. I want to ask though, do you think, in a way that for like a younger mind, maybe shooting a gun is a rush, like a drug that they want in certain brains, not every 18-year-old, but certain minds might seek that out as a bigger and bigger and bigger rush?
I don't think so, because my kid, I started training her, and she's deadly at 150 with an AR-15, and I started training her at 8. So
yeah.
And then she's become responsible, and the fact of how to handle the weapon and how to be around weapons and not barrel check people, not just in how to handle.
But if you don't learn the consequences before the rush, do you go for the rush instead of learning how to?
It all depends. Yeah, you know what I mean? I get what you're saying, and I think that it all depends on how you were raised and how you were trained. Honestly,
because I saw this guy with an Uzi using at the pistol range, just scattershot and everything.
That's an Uzi.
I was like, you're just going for a rush.
Yes.
There is no trying to educate or get better with the weapon. You just want to
Mag
You want
dump.
the noise.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that certain kids might just get a rush from
So-
people's reactions to the noise they
So
make.
here's
you know?
here's the grand question in all
Not
of
all
this.
kids.
You know, Adam, have you gone hunting before?
Never. No. Define hunting for people or for game for farming.
For game, for
No.
farming.
Never. Not once. How many?
You've never shot a living animal before?
Define human. Is it human or animal? Actual animal.
Ooh.
Non-human.
Okay. No.
This is some serial killer splitting of hairs here, buddy. I just wanted to say that.
Well, human is the most dangerous game.
100%.
Read the book.
That's right.
But here's
and if it agrees and signs the contract, there's no reason.
And here's why, though.
Here,
So listen, I grew up in a situation where I've never hunted. I mean, we weren't hunters. We weren't. So I never had the opportunity to hunt. I mean, now, do I want to learn? Yes. Do I want to go with anybody? Yes. But I want to learn the right way. I don't want to learn like, oh man, we're just gonna, we're gonna cruise down the road. Like I've heard many times, cruise down the road and shine the spotlight. Oh man, there's something right there. Shoot that. That's not enough hunting.
Plus, Adam growing up, getting food was a lot easier than protecting himself.
Yeah, we grew our own food because we were poor. You know what I mean?
Right.
So no, I've never been hunting, and do I want to? Yes. Do I what? Have I taken many hunter ed safety courses? Yes. Have I actually got to shoot an animal? No.
And then let me tell you my experience, because I have killed more animals than I care to count. And one of the things that I will tell a person is that the first time you kill an animal, the first time I grew up with a BB gun shooting birds. That was my first animal kill. Was I killed a little bird with a BB gun. And there is a rush to it, but then when you walk up to it and you pick up that dead bird, there's a finality of life that you start to appreciate, is that I did this. I am capable of doing this.
Right.
Yeah.
And you have
there's a fork in the road right there in the mind.
And the first time you kill a larger game bird with a shotgun, you have that same reaction. But for whatever reason, the first time you kill a larger animal like a deer or an antelope or a bear or whatever, or an elk, there is this finality that you feel that changes in a lot of ways. You gain a new appreciation for life and the sacrifice of animals that you kill, and which is a lot of reasons why, as I learned a little bit more about Native American culture, I grew to appreciate the fact that, they gave thanks to the animal for
100%.
Sustaining their life.
Yep.
Yeah.
But that finality, it didn't just stop at, oh, hey, I just, killed an animal. It was like, I ended a life. And depending on where this gun is pointed, I could end more. And so you learn very quickly how to be very, very careful about how you shoot.
Yep.
Knowing that if you fuck up, somebody else could pay the price for you being an idiot.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's a hard lesson to learn for some people. I've had friends that have shot holes in their truck because they're fucking around and not paying attention. Yeah, I had one of my friends. The only thing he bagged all year was a Dodge Ram 1500.
So he filled his tag then,
pretty much. But we've all known or heard stories of people who shot their hunting buddy.
Yeah,
because they're they're not paying attention. Yeah, well, that's a whole different story.
That's a whole other pile of shit we don't want to step in.
But even still, once again, that boils down to something that you and I have talked about: training, understanding, keeping your finger off the fucking trigger unless you're going to pull it.
Yep.
Wow, that's what Doxy just said in our chat. Like, respect it. Don't put your finger on it unless you intend to use it.
Exactly. Hi, Maddox. It's good to hear you on there. That's mine and Debbie's friend, Maddox.
Nice.
Yay. Well, welcome to the show. What I want my first thought. My first thought was go to your local gun shops and ask them what their policy is about selling guns to children or younger children.
Number one, they
can't.
Well,
they won't.
No, you
They
can't, won't. They're not going to jail so that way your kid can have a gun.
Yeah.
What now?
Okay.
If you know, as an adult, if you buy a gun and then you give it to your kid, that's on you. That's
Right.
There's literally nothing that can stop you from doing that.
Well, I'm still considering a kid a young adult. I'm not considering
Well,
a
and
child.
this is where it's like, I mean, mentally, you have that question
So
of
you're saying they have no discretion. Any 18-year-old that walks into a gun shop has to be sold a gun if they want it.
no,
No.
they have to pass.
That's what I'm
They have
saying.
to pass a background check.
Have to.
And then if they pass the background check, they can have it no matter what. There's no discretion for the store owner to say, I don't want
Nope.
to sell to you.
Nope, because
Wow.
you run into the legal question of, you know, what legally are they allowed to do? Now, you know, for me, when I was teaching and giving people a hunting license, I very
Mhm.
much had the discretion of deciding whether or not they could be licensed.
Right. Who would train
And
and
for
stuff.
concealed weapons permits in different states, some states, you know, Washington, for example, all I had to do is go down and apply, and I got my concealed weapons permit. Now, granted, you know, I worked for the feds. I have a hunting. I have an education, you know, a hunter safety education card
But I
that
can do
shows
the
that I've
same thing
gone
in
through
Florida, and I'm blind.
I don't have to pass, basically, as long as my background check clears.
Okay.
That's, you know, and your background check is going to look at, you know, if there's anything nationally that they need to be aware of, if there's anything locally that they need to be aware of, you know.
Well, of course.
And
Well, except for the Charleston loophole that says if it takes longer than a certain period, it's automatically approved. But would you be in favor of gun shop owners being in a discussion to reform some of that stuff, to give them more discretion?
I don't know. That's kind of a slippery one too. You know, because like what now you're putting gun owners and gun shop owners into the political realm where they should be.
Well, I don't want to make it political. I'm just saying at a local
Right.
level, if the parents in a certain community are like, we just don't want you to sell to kids that are still in high school. Like, can you wait till they're out of high school? If a lone kid comes in and says, "Can I get 2 AR-15s and 5,000 rounds of
they
ammo?"
couldn't get it.
Can the guy go?
Well,
Could the guy be like, "Oh, you were just in here yesterday for
here you go. How do you prove that the kid is still in school?"
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the grand question is that unless you have like whatever the local school system software is talking to that national database to say, yes, this person is still in school, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Hey,
But that's what I'm saying.
can you show me your school ID card, or are you capable of lying and telling me that you're not in school?
Well, every town suggests gun shop reforms. So what I'm saying is there's people that are going to say to gun shop owners, this is what you need to do. Or gun shop owners can be a part of the conversation and say that's rational, but that's not.
Well,
You know what I mean?
I think, you know, and you know, Adam, maybe you have some insight in on this too. I think that, you know, there is a legitimate discussion to be had as to whether or not somebody is showing some tendencies that might make you say, I don't know if I want to give this person a gun. Like, I have a feeling that they're out to do something not so good.
That's what I'm asking. Like, does the shop owner have any place to say not today, or you know what I mean?
And that's the tough part.
That's really tough.
Yeah, it is tough.
It's absolutely tough.
It is tough.
Like, in one hand, you want the gun shop owner wants to make that dollar. On the other hand,
of course,
that gun shop owner doesn't want to just put their guns out there anywhere because, you know, in cases of the shooting of who was that sniper that was from Tacoma and had that kid with him, and they were just shooting. You know what I'm talking about? So they bought a gun from one of the pawn shops, and then it linked them back to them. And gun shop owners don't want that kind of negative publicity. So I think they are careful.
I mean, nationally, these shootings create more gun sales, but locally, Uvalde isn't going to sell another AR-15. You know what I mean?
I don't know that that's necessarily true. I think the biggest problem that you're going to have is that you either have to come up. Most people are going to be subjective about what it is. You know, let's say 18-year-old Adam comes in, and I'm somebody who's prejudiced against brown people. All I got to do is take one look at Adam and go, I think you're up to no good, and I'm not going to give you a gun. Yep. And that doesn't necessarily say whether or not Adam's gone through training. Because what's the difference between an 18-year-old who's just, you know, who's out of high school or still in high school, on an 18-year-old who just finished boot camp and, now has a set number of hours behind an AR-15.
I'll tell you, it's the access to the school.
Well, in the case of Uvalde, that didn't really matter. He had
Well, yeah,
access.
there was other, but he never went to that school, right? It was just where he ended up. What I'm saying is you don't have an access pass to the school once you're no longer in the school, so that kind of changes things.
Well, he didn't have an access pass to that school either, but there he was.
No.
And so
Anyway, I don't want to get into that.
That's a whole nother level of fucked up.
Right.
So,
like I said, that's local things that local people need to address. The response and the problems and the mistakes locally, I can't have an opinion on that. That's what the local people need to fix.
So one of the biggest questions has been red flag laws. And red flag laws
and your friend agrees with me, by the way, that they need discretion. So 2 for 2. I love it.
So one of the biggest things has been red flag laws. Red flag laws are a really interesting conversation. And you can make the point that red flag laws need to happen. Now, here's where this gets tough is that in our current justice system, we have nothing that says that as long as you've made contact with the police, that you're any sort of danger to society. It's only once you've been convicted or once you've been sent off to, a mental health institution. For example, the kid that shot up Parkland, he had over 100 contacts with law enforcement in the year and a half prior to him shooting up Parkland. But none of those have resulted in his arrest. None of those had resulted in none of those resulted in him being committed to a mental institution of any kind.
That's right. And in fact, only 2 out of 60 multiple shooters had any mental illness at all. And I want to make that point. It's not mental illness, it's assholes.
That's 100%.
Here's the thing. I mean, it is assholes.
You can be an asshole with like a misogynistic tendency. That's not a mental illness. I just don't want people to think that schizophrenics are like out there buying AR-15s to kill people, because that's something that schizophrenics do. Not all mental illnesses lead to gun violence.
And I will agree with you. I will agree with you on that. But
every asshole
but the problem
shoots
but
kids
here's the thing.
has a problem.
I'd say anybody who is out there to shoot anybody has some type of a problem.
Right.
Now the question is that when you have that many contacts with law enforcement, is there something going on that should raise the flag that says, you know what, this person has some things going on in their life that I don't trust them having a gun?
Yes.
Like, is it one contact with law enforcement? I mean, a speeding ticket could do that.
That's the slippery slope.
Bingo.
Like Adam was saying.
What classifies? In a lot of cases, for example,
felony.
So only convicted, or if you're being investigated for a felony, and if you're being investigated and if you're being investigated for a felony, what happens when you are, those charges are dropped? Does that mean that you get your rights get restored right away?
Right.
And that's the issue is that you have to, with red flag laws, you would still have to come up with a subjective measure that says, hey, if you're being flagged if you're making contact with law enforcement for all of these things, and you're being looked at for all of these things, we're going to remove guns from your house. And for a duration of X, Y, and Z time afterwards, you're not going to have access to them until you can prove that you've done X, Y, and Z things and that you're not going to be in trouble with law enforcement. Now, that's where this gets problematic, because even in our justice system, we're still innocent until proven guilty. So an innocent person who has not been proven guilty of a crime, who is still being looked at for something, is potentially, their rights are being violated under the way that the Constitution is written. So you end up having this issue of whether or not you actually have a legal ability to take away somebody's guns because they are not guilty of a crime that should remove their firearms from them.
Because there's a suggestion here that says prohibit people with dangerous histories from owning guns or having guns. Would you agree with that? That people that have been convicted multiple times.
We already do
That's already
okay, so then we're in agreement of that.
It's the question of if they're not convicted. That's the problem. That's the real problem.
Right.
Is that if
they weren't convicted, they didn't do it, and there's nothing I can do.
And that's the
about
thing
it.
is that, for example, This is where this is something that, is going to require greater conversation. How many, Adam, maybe you might know, how
Mhm.
many people do you know that have been abused by a significant other, that they have been abused multiple times by that significant other, but they fail to they
Right.
fail to charge that person because
Many,
either they're afraid.
many.
Do I want that person owning a gun?
No.
No. The cops know what's going on, but they can't prosecute
Mhm.
somebody who is unwilling to have a person press charges against them,
No.
That's
unless
right.
there is a law that says we know what's happening. Since they can't prosecute, the state will prosecute for them.
And that's what happens
Well,
on a
there's-
regular basis now. I mean, it's like if you look at some of the domestic violence
Okay.
issues here, I mean, it happens. So if in one case the police show up to domestic violence house, let's say next door neighbors, random name, Monica gets beat up by Steve, and Steve has had no scratches, no bruises, but his hands have a lot of contusions on his knuckles, wrists, scratches on his arms from defensive wounds from Monica. Now Monica is battered, bruised, beaten up, bloody, and she refuses to press charges because she knows what an asshole. I forgot his name, whatever his name was. I fucking Steve. So now this is where the state steps in and says, hey, guess what? The state is actually going to arrest somebody, and the aggressor happens to be Steve. Steve is going to jail. Now, when it gets to the court time, Monica steps in front of the judge. Judge just says, how do you want to press charges? She says no, because he knows what an asshole Steve is. This is where the state steps in and says the state will press charges on behalf. And that's when that whole slippery slope of like, oh shit, Steve just got fucked. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, Steve just
because don't lay hands on a woman. How about that, motherfucker?
Well, of course, but women don't lay hands on a man. You know what I mean?
That too.
Like,
too.
Sorry about that. It goes both ways. Like domestic violence goes both ways, and I'm not putting blame on anybody. But would you feel in that situation that it would be okay when you get to the scene for the police to make the determination to remove all the weapons from the house and hold them until a judge deems it okay for them to have the guns?
In the state of Washington, they do.
Yeah, they do.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
That's another proposal. That's why I'm asking. And I wanted to know, because then what is the period of time? Like how long before you get it back?
It's a year.
Right. Okay.
Or it's a year.
Or if you're prosecuted, you don't get it. You don't get them back.
Right. But if you're found innocent, you don't get them back right then
Oh,
and
no,
there?
not right on the spot. No, you have to jump through hoops. You have to go through the appropriate classes. You got to go through your education.
Okay.
You got to go through the mental health check.
That kind of sucks if you're found innocent.
Guess what? Then don't get in a situation that's going to make it put you in shit like that. That's how it works.
I agree.
You know what I mean? And I think that all of us we strongly agree that if you like your weapons, I know I do. I sleep naked with my weapons when I'm by myself. Let's get that clear. But I don't want to lose my weapons. I'm not going to do anything that's going to endanger my family, my rights,
of course not.
my community. I don't want anything that's going to take away those kind of weapons, because
that's what I'm saying is that there's a group of, let's say, 5 million people, and there's maybe 10,000 that feel that everybody should have guns and kill everybody and have nuclear bombs all the time. Right? Like there's those people that don't see restrictions.
Keep a nuclear
right?
bomb.
Yeah, me either.
Right, but is that where we're headed? Well, I have a higher nuclear yield bomb than you do. That's not where we're.
I don't want my
talking.
dick to glow in the dark.
But
I do.
A lot of responsible gun owners don't want that portrayal of them.
Oh.
And I want to say before I ask Jeffrey about this one is, I found Giffords, and Giffords is like the NRA for responsible gun owners. And I think that giving people that information, maybe go look it up and see if that's something for you. I think the NRA protects your rights by protecting the most radical end of you. They're trying to protect those 1,000 people, and I think they're just using your dues to do it. But
that's why why I'm not an NRA member.
Well, I would hope nobody was, but if you are an NRA member, maybe try and look at Giffords and see if maybe you can be a part of the conversation, because that's what they're doing. Instead of, it's a group of gun owners that communicate and discuss these things, like these policies, and they have opinions that are easier. But I want to ask Jeffrey about this one, and it's called Block Concealed Carry Reciprocity. And I have no idea what that means.
Block concealed carry reciprocity.
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
Like they're wanting to block the reciprocity of it, or they're talking about like, is it block BLOCK or BLOC?
Oh, BLOCK.
Okay, so that's
it would gut state standards for who may carry hidden loaded handguns in public.
Interesting. Okay,
what is
right?
What is
instead of you
reciprocity?
Yeah, that's why I'm asking Jeffrey. There's just one word in there. I just don't understand.
So reciprocity. There's reciprocity.
I'd like to learn. I'm sorry, Jeffrey, but when you throw in big words like this, I mean, you're trying to attack a certain thing like concealed carry. How about use simple words where people are going to understand what that means? You know what I mean?
Well, reciprocity is a legal term in this case. So it comes from the word reciprocate. So, for example, if I give you a handy, I would hope that you would reciprocate and give me one. Right. Same thing when it comes to concealed carry licenses. If I have a concealed carry license and the state of Washington says that I'm good to have a concealed carry license, then what I am hoping is that the state of, let's say, Montana or Idaho or Oregon or whoever would say, yeah, what you have done is enough for us, and we recognize your concealed carry permit as valid in our state.
Okay.
Now, Washington does not have reciprocity with every state. Like, for example, California doesn't recognize Washington's process as strict enough.
Yeah.
But in like the state of Texas, for example, it doesn't matter. You're allowed to carry. It recognizes every concealed carry permit out there.
Right.
Montana is very similar in that regards. Is that anybody who's gotten their concealed carry permit is good to carry, but if a Montanan with a concealed carry permit shows up in, say, California, it's not going to be valid. And other states have even different, even stranger laws yet. Yeah. Like,
right.
So for example, in Illinois, your concealed carry might be good, but in Chicago proper, it won't be.
Mm-hmm.
Because Chicago has tried to outlaw guns, and well, that doesn't really work out all that well for them because the people who don't have guns are, well, the people who are following the law.
Yeah. And Indiana, by the way, they didn't outlaw guns, so
so reciprocity is the idea, the concept of being able to issue a permit and have it be accepted, kind of like our driver's licenses. For example, a driver's license that's valid in Washington is valid in every single other state. Because what you're saying is that you have gone through the required, training, the required testing in order to prove that you know how to drive a vehicle. And so driver's licenses are reciprocal across all 50 states, but concealed carry permits are not. So California has some restrictions, like they want to have enhanced background checks. They demand that you have a certain number of class hours in order to get a concealed carry permit. They require you to have insurance now, I believe, or it might just be San Francisco requires insurance now. But they're moving towards requiring gun owners to provide proof of insurance in order to be able to carry concealed.
San Jose just enacted that.
San Jose, that's who I was thinking of. It was right around the Bay Area.
Yeah.
So whereas in states like Texas or Montana, for example, or Washington, we do go through enhanced background checks, yes, but there's no requirements on whether or not you've had any sort of training whatsoever. Arizona, surprisingly, you have to prove that you've at least taken basic firearm safety, and a hunter safety card does just that.
That's how it was in Chicago. I needed to take training before I could have a gun.
And so, being able to, all I had to do was literally show my hunter safety card and say, yeah, I've taken hunter safety. I know how to handle a gun. And they're like, all right, cool. That's good enough. And in which case, for concealed carry permits, I'm always on the side of the education, because a gun owner who doesn't have the education, enough education and enough time training and practicing, generally are not safe. And on top of that, one of the things that you have to remember about concealed carry is that the safety aspect of it is only one part. Most people don't tend to think about legally what you're allowed to do.
Yep.
If you have like, for example, if I'm out concealed carrying and I go to Target, for example, and somebody decides to steal a bunch of stuff, Adam, am I allowed to pull my gun out and stop them?
No.
Why?
Because why are you going to pull it out for? Did he
Citizens arrest?
No,
nope.
That's
You
not
can't do
valid.
that. Nope. In the
Okay,
state
I
of
don't know.
Washington,
Yeah, you
the
can't.
law in the state of Washington is that you have to prove that your life or the lives of others are in imminent threat of danger.
100%. And somebody
And
steals.
somebody is not a threat to your life.
Yeah.
And so we've
Okay.
actually seen quite a few cases here where gun owners try to stop a theft, and now they're charged with brandishing
100%.
and they're charged with assault with a deadly weapon, and now they're going to lose their right.
Yep.
Because if you don't understand the gun law in your state, you will lose the right to that gun. And I'm perfectly fine with that. Or, for example, Adam, do you know what duty to retreat laws are?
No, I do not.
We have that in Florida.
So duty to retreat laws are, if you have the ability to walk away from the situation, you have to walk away. You cannot pull out your gun. And if it's shown that you had the ability to walk away and you didn't, you're going to be charged with brandishing and assault.
Yes. In Florida, they call it the 3-step rule. If you step back 3 steps and they come towards you 3 steps, that was you're trying to retreat, and then you can now shoot to kill.
Yep. For example, castle doctrine. Do you know what castle doctrine is?
Your house, your castle, you can defend it.
Now, here's the thing about castle doctrine.
Oh boy.
Castle doctrine
It's
is
slippery
not
too.
universal. Castle
Is that right?
doctrine is
Yeah.
not universal. So, for example, in some states, castle doctrine just refers to what's inside your house.
Right.
In
Okay.
other states, it extends to your physical
Your
property,
property.
and
Yes.
your assets and
Right.
your business. Now, in Washington state, for example, castle doctrine does apply to your business. So if you have a storefront, you are allowed to carry a gun. And if somebody threatens your life inside of your store, you can shoot to kill.
Yeah.
However, if they are stealing from you, you can't do that. And that actually just happened here not that long ago.
That's like
up in
isn't that
Tacoma. Up in
Sumerian?
Tacoma.
And an eye for an eye. Like you don't need a bazooka to stop like a homeless person, right?
Right.
Like an eye for an eye. That's basic.
But-
can I just ask real quick? Are you for background checks in whatever form you guys end up deciding on every
much as I
on
hate it,
every gun
As
sale,
much as I hate
on every
it,
gun
I
sale?
agree with it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Well, that's the thing is that without a background check, how do I know who is a prohibited possessor or not?
100%.
It's not like
Right.
you have something tattooed on your head that says
legal.
convict.
Yeah, legal
Right.
convict. Yeah. I'm all
You
think
have
it's
to
kind of
to check in order to make
it's like
sure.
a badge of honor, right? It's like getting your driver's license at 16. You kind of want
it is the best
right?
fucking feeling to be able to go to
Right.
own and legally own a firearm and be able to carry
Yeah.
that, because Washington's open carry. You know, I open carry, or sometimes I carry concealed because I have that permit. But I was always under the impression, you know what? If I want that CPL, I want to go get that hunter safety class, and I want to be able to
Hell
demonstrate
yeah.
and have those classroom hours and have that training. So that's my thinking. To be-
I also want you to have that.
to be responsible owner of a fucking firearm that can and possibly could end a life in instance of imminent danger, or protecting my family
Right.
or my friends, or
Mhm.
some kind of, Texas shootout where something weird happens and aliens
Yeah.
come out with dildos and probe us. I have something to protect us. You know what I mean? I want to be able to go through those classes and be able to present myself and be like, hey, you know what? Cool. Hell yeah. This is what I got.
Well, and
Right.
even as a gun owner, it's like I need to understand the law, because
100%,
I don't want
dude.
to pull my gun out in a place or have my gun on me in a place that's going to get me arrested. For
Yep.
example, Adam, can you concealed carry in a bar or tavern in Washington?
You cannot.
Adam, can you concealed carry on public
Love it.
transit in Washington?
You cannot.
No, you can.
Oh, you can?
You can concealed carry on transit in Washington.
I was thinking that's why I've always owned my truck. I always have my truck with me. I'm like, you know what? Fuck, I'm not running those.
No, that one was the one that actually surprised me because there's some places where you can't do that.
Yeah. Can you carry it in a church?
Carry on?
Yes, you can, because you know what? God, you ain't my dad.
There it is. Prohibit guns in sensitive areas.
Yeah, like schools, clearly you don't.
That just makes sense,
it makes
right?
just perfect sense. If it's common sense, I mean, as a gun owner, you got to have a little bit of common sense. Like, you're not going to.
You can't go to court.
You're not going to court.
You can't go to court with a gun, right?
to school with a weapon. I mean, you got. Come
right.
on, man. Kids are going to ask, "Oh, hey, yeah, what? Mr. So-and-so has got a gun on him." And then guess what?
They might just grab your gun and shoot it because that's what kids do.
Little fuckers.
Right. Like who's like, and that's the thing is like, how many teachers out there do you think are actually trained with firearms?
0.
Oh, I hate
very few.
It's hard, isn't it, Jason?
Teachers don't have body armor.
They have so much other shit that they have to worry about. They're so
like shooting someone they just taught. No way.
Come on. I mean, I think that's
why are we burning books to replace them with guns and thinking that's going to create people that it can give us mental health therapy?
That's where this next piece comes in is that part of the common sense to gun control is also expanding things that are also common sense. Adam, having had school children, how easy is it to get your kid mental health help outside of school?
100% difficult.
Adam, how would you feel if schools had more mental health presence within schools, like counselors? So that way, if they needed, so if a student needed to come out of class for their mental health appointment, you would have.
Can I object to something in there?
Let's hear it.
I don't necessarily want the government in control of my kid's mental health.
Good point.
I'm not saying that they are in control of it. I'm saying that it's a resource that's there.
We've already said that government schools are government, and so a teacher can't lead kids in prayer. I just have a real issue with HIPAA and like scope creeping. Like, oh well, here's a way to collect information about these young kids, so later on we can say, well, when you were in 4th grade, Tommy, you
drew a bunch of dicks on the wall.
No.
Right. Peekaboo. So I would prefer that all therapy was by like non-partisan.
Can I interject, Jeffrey? I'm really sorry, my man. I agree with you, Jason, but I also agree with Jeffrey. I agree.
Yeah, you have kids. I don't.
Look, I want to be able to know. Like here's a really good example. Okay. I am really fortunate to have a really good school system where the principal calls me, we have a conversation, and we talk about, hey, so-and-so, it's like, there's a mental health issue, and, the blah, 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 not giving names, but this is, something you need to be aware of. This could have happened, and this was stopped. Oh, great. Okay, so what are we doing to protect that kid's mental health? I mean, is somebody talking to them? Is it somebody in school? Is it somebody out of school? How's that? Oh, well, without giving too much information, we set them up with somebody outside of the school system. Fan-fucking-tastic. That's what I like to hear, okay?
Yeah,
my
I like
issue
that.
is with, somebody, there's a counselor at school.
That would have saved kids in Michigan.
Oh, 100%, right? They had they had an outlet or somebody to speak with. Yeah, great. So I have that issue. You know what I mean? It's like in schools, I don't want somebody to be like, well, Blacka said that I could do this and that.
Right.
Sorry.
Does your mother touch you? I have to report that.
Exactly.
Like, you know what I mean? There's less privacy, but I do like the referral idea. Like we're seeing something that there's a counselor.
But now here's the difficult part is that, for low income families or for families that are already stretched thin, missing work means missing meals, or rent, or whatever,
more telehealth.
So how do you set up access, in a way that makes sense? Now, I agree. Like I do agree that there are worries about having counselors in the schools that are employed by the government, but at the same time too, having counselors doesn't mean that it's strictly available to the government to access. Telehealth, like we said,
would be nice.
Like you can have rooms set up as telemental health
That would be
systems,
nice.
especially
like
as
contractors that
exactly.
aren't getting paid by like the government itself.
Well, I
but-
mean, they're going to have to get paid by the government if you're
well,
going to
yeah,
have
but
that.
they could
Or-
also be an organization that collects donations and gets funding.
right,
You know what
exactly. But having that space for kids that are
I mean?
that where they can go and have easy access during school hours, I honestly think makes a huge difference.
It
And I think it
does.
could
And
make
somebody-
a huge difference because
Somebody
that
created
help is different.
an anonymous an app where you could report people anonymously for students, and I can't remember who did that, but yeah, that's an app you can use now. I like that. Giving students the power for early reporting to me is crucial, because if you can get a kid that's crying before he kills and you can solve that, then he's not going to kill, he'll stop crying, because every kid is pretty amazing. And I want to say, like, when you're told that immigrants are coming in the country to kill you, and you're told that one portion of the population is coming to kill you, and you're told that that can happen at any time, and you need to protect yourself and you need to arm yourself because a war is coming, people will see that war and try and kill. And so a lot of it is this rhetoric that parents could just make it mundane. We were talking about sex. If you have that sex talk with your kids so much that it's boring, they're less likely to go out and just want to experiment and get pregnant because they know everything. Same thing with guns. I think we need that communication. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Absolutely.
Okay. And then I wanted to throw Ted Cruz's suggestion in here, and this is inevitable. This is the price we pay for our freedoms. So some kids die, but we get to keep our guns. That's what's more
Wow,
important.
this is that Mexico Ted Cruz. When
Yes.
Yeah.
fuck him.
Raphael.
Fuck him. You know what, Ted Cruz, come
Okay.
fight me. 1600 Pennsylvania Ave, knock on the front door, fucker.
Well, what
an
he's
idiot.
doing is standing up for what he thinks you guys believe.
Shit.
No,
You know?
God damn, I don't believe any of that.
that's bullshit.
I love guns, but I
That's-
love kids more. So I mean,
Yeah.
if somebody said, "Hey man, you got to choose your guns or your kids," well, bye kids.
Right. How about rewriting history and filling our history books with things that don't cause grievance, so kids don't want to kill because they don't know what LGBT
Oh
is.
my fuck, dude, what kind of
Yeah, I
stuff?
So
know.
basically, if we whitewash it all,
Let's brownwash it, dude. Brown, you know what? Brown
Right?
people, brown
Right.
people.
fuck it, rainbow wash it.
The rainbow wash. Fucking A, man. We get such this is
And then,
happier life. Go ahead, just subs.
Or
Here's an easy one. Just elect more radical Democrats, and then we won't have a say, and they'll just take everything.
What in the fuck is that?
No, sorry. These were some ideas I just put in there. How would you guys feel about safe storage? Like, you do that anyway,
What do you
right?
mean?
dude, anyway,
Yeah, like
like
do
so,
shit in
like
safes?
having actual requirements that you have safes that you lock your firearms. up in.
Oh, I got that
Right.
as soon as I had a baby.
Or cases or whatever.
Oh no, the
right.
cases ain't gonna do shit. You want them in the safe
Cases
for
won't.
sure. Yeah.
You want them in a safe.
As soon as I
Right.
had
That's-
my baby girl, I was like, you know what? I got to put all my guns in safes. You got to start thinking about safety aspect of things. So
Right.
my gun, that's a no brainer.
Yeah,
Right.
I think any rational gun owner would have a safe.
100%.
And for me it was always a struggle because we're always moving and bouncing around. But the moment we
Mhm.
stopped moving, I started looking into safe options, and then I finally found one that worked for me.
Yep.
Okay. I have one for Jeffrey.
Liberty
okay.
Safe
We got-
Company. Go ahead.
Repeal restrictions on gun trace data.
What?
The Titan Amendment. So the government isn't allowed to research gun violence or what happens.
What?
So we can't really target any policies.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so
Mhm.
the idea is to repeal it so we can research it so that we don't have to say, Adam, give up your gun, because we can target it to the group of people that's most at risk.
You and I have talked.
know what I mean?
You and I have talked about this, Jason.
Yeah.
When it comes to the shootings, you either the biggest discussion points have been from the left, it's a gun problem. From the right, it's a
Right.
mental health problem.
Right.
Now, what are you going to do if you don't have any way to prove that it's one or the other? Well, you do nothing
Or do everything.
or do everything.
One side wants to do everything against everybody, and the other side doesn't want to do anything for anybody.
and so
Welcome
if
to
you
America,
don't-
fuckers.
Right.
Because America.
So if you don't study what's happening, and if you don't
Right.
learn what's happening, you're never going to actually target the problem. A lot
Right.
of this, a lot of what you see are symptoms of the problem. The question is
Mhm.
what is the actual problem?
Right.
Because there's the issue of there are a bunch of gun owners out there that are absolutely responsible, that you maybe have had mental health issues in the past, but are
Mhm.
they're medicated, they go to therapy, they're perfectly
Yeah.
normal functional citizens, and they do all of these other things that they need to do, and they own guns. Then you have people who maybe don't do any of that. It's the reality is that without doing any of the research as to what the
Mhm.
issue is, maybe the issue is guns, maybe the issue is mental health, maybe the issue is socioeconomic, and people do things in order to make money and put food on the table. There are so many different aspects that you could potentially research down through, but because they are not allowed to research any of it,
Mhm.
you will never know what potential issues there are out there, and that doesn't make any
Right.
sense.
Makes zero
So I
sense.
guess the question, Adam, is would you rather that the government did that because that's what we pay our taxes for, or would you rather it was an independent group,
That's
like a corporation of some sort,
uh
or
oh,
whatever it is, organization. I hate orgs, so I'm not a fan of org. So do you want the government to do it, or would you rather people did, like Dan or Jeffrey? Would you rather Jeffrey
look,
did
if
it,
Jeffrey
or
was going to do
would
my
you
background check, I'd
rather?
like him to look at it and see, like, all right, that's cool. But
Well, I mean, to look into the reasons that this stuff is happening, to base
oh, okay,
policies
if you're
around
looking
it.
for reasons like that, you want somebody that's going to be super
Right.
analytical. You don't want somebody who's going to be biased. I'd like an
Right.
individual
Right.
company. Like if Jeffrey had a
Okay.
company that
Me
had
too.
somebody to say his whole fleet of people, his whole people,
Right.
all their job was to do was investigate these things. And they would come with accurate statistical numbers and say, hey, these are the
Right.
facts. Take a look at this, and you need to understand it. And this is why. I would be okay with that.
I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican. I'm a guy that has a gun. I give a fuck,
Yes.
so I did
Yes.
this. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's, and for me, like,
Okay.
as a researcher, confirmation bias is always the biggest issue.
Yep.
Mhm.
If the NRA did the study, I would call bullshit on it.
Yep.
Right.
If some
If
organization,
Joe Biden did.
Oh,
if some
Like
organization that said, we want to remove all
Kamala.
guns from all households did the study, I would call confirmation
bullshit.
bias on that as
Right.
well.
Yep.
It's
Right.
like the fact of the matter is that you have to look at it like, and this is where I think it lies within the realm of academia.
Yep.
You have to be able to research this in a place where the issue is going to be researched using data that exists,
I agree.
and you're just going to have to look at it from that
Yep.
perspective. And there's always going to be the want and desire to cherry pick what data gets included and what
Sure.
data gets excluded.
Mhm.
And that's,
But give us all the data, and then we'll all jury pick what
well,
we
and
want.
that's the thing is
You
that
know what
At least we'll have
From-
all
from-
the data.
from a
Right.
data analytics perspective, if you have the more data you have, you can find out where your correlation is affected and
Mhm.
where it isn't affected.
Yep.
Multivariate equations are one of the biggest things that we use. Like when I did R programming, for example, you could take 8 different sets of data, and you could easily see which data sets helped improve your
Yeah.
correlations and which data sets made your correlation weaker. And so
Right.
you could sit down and go, so this piece right here, which states that did this, they actually saw a reduction in, whatever, or states that
Mhm.
did this, you actually saw more. It's one of those things
Yeah.
where data analysis is the tail of the tape, and maybe you don't have all the data you need, and that's always the bitch about being a data analyst is that
Right.
You're not
there's
getting all
always going to be
aspects.
more.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's always going to be more that you want and that you're not going to have access to, or that you can't get access to.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that's the problem. And until
But I can
somebody
either
says that you
I can
get
guess.
there's no guessing. That's the thing
No,
about
what I'm saying is I can guess at what's hurting my body, or I can take the test to tell me what's doing it. The analytic version is getting the test and finding out what it is instead of just randomly guessing.
Well, and that's the thing is like, even when you do the test is just one in a series of tests.
Mhm.
Because the reality is that everybody's going to take it and they're going to test it. Then they're going to take what you tested and then they're going to test it. That's the peer review
Right.
process. And with
Hopefully.
all of those tests, you're going to have you're going to end up coming to some type of consensus that agrees with
Right.
either your methodologies or your analytical methods, or you're going to have people who call bullshit. And that's where this gets really tough.
That's what science is. That's why it's awesome, though.
You're going to have people on the extremes who call bullshit. I mean, for example, 97% of scientists that study climate science thinks it's caused by humans. That other 3%, they're out there on the fringes. And that's the reality is that there's pretty much no such thing as a 100% consensus in science.
But they can't decide that it's way too fucking hot and we need to cool the planet off a little bit because it's fucking hot. Who cares why it is? But I have two little things left and we're running out of time. So we can stop the signal on a cell phone when we go in a movie, but we can't disarm a gun when it goes into a school or a Walmart. Would you feel about introducing technology that would disarm a gun like that?
Best of luck designing that.
Yeah, good luck.
I'm just saying if they dropped the lack of reforms for guns and regulated some safety measures into guns, would that be something you would agree to?
It wouldn't work. And the reason I say that is because once again, you're going to be relying on people to take what guns that they have, turn them over, them over to be retrofitted with this technology.
No, the new guns. So this would be something that would work in 100 years when all the other guns failed and died.
So not AK-47s is what you're saying.
But we did the same thing with cigarettes. We made them put fire rings because people were burning their couches.
Well, and
so would you be okay with putting some safety measures into guns if there was a way the manufacturer could limit their accountability by adding something? What kind of safety measures would be okay to add to a gun when we don't want a lot of technology in it to begin with? Because that's what
if you put that kind of biometrics into a hand cannon, a mini rail gun, or what are those things called that they have out in the ocean that nobody's supposed to know about? Oh, never mind. I'm supposed to talk about that.
Rail guns.
Rail guns. Yeah. Then you go ahead and put that all night. That's fine. But dude, it's not going to happen anytime soon. Nobody's going to change the formula or the way weapons are made. Yeah. So I'm very opposed to it right now because we're not there yet.
Okay. See, I don't want to go and have to defend myself, but realize iPhone has an update.
Right.
Damn it!
And that's the other thing is then you have the ability once again for people to hack it. So what is locking the mechanism? Can it cause the firearm to go off? And in which case, then you're going to end up with a bunch of people shooting themselves because of a software glitch, and that's not going to help anybody.
Defeated the whole purpose.
So or it worked as intended.
Take your pick.
Okay. Is there any there was one more and I can't really remember what it is. So is there anything that we didn't talk about? Oh, raising the age to 21 from 18.
No.
Raising the age to 26.
I don't think you could buy any weapons now as a 21-year-old or an 18-year-old. You can't buy a semi-automatic weapon.
You can buy a long gun, but you can't buy a handgun.
You can't buy a handgun. You can buy a long gun.
You can't buy an AR-15.
You can't buy an AR-15, but you can buy a hunting rifle. You can buy a shotgun.
Yeah.
And I think that depends on the state, to be perfectly honest. In the state of Washington,
it totally does,
in the state of Washington, so you have to be 21 to buy pistols. You have to be 21 to buy AR-15s. But you can go out and buy a pump action shotgun. You can go out and buy a bolt action rifle. At the age of 18.
You give me a pump action. I want people to know I'm arming it.
I mean, the sound of that.
I want them to hear that click, man.
The sound of that shotgun racking is unmistakable.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Right. I'm blind. You hear me racking my gun. Just get out of the way, whoever you are.
We're fucking covered. So I mean, you do, but here's, I think the biggest question that's going to get posed is when you look at the Second Amendment, it says a well-regulated militia. So here's the problem.
But it also says you can't infringe on the individual people too. So I'm okay with hearing that.
But it says necessary to the well-regulated militia. So here's the issue then, is that with each state's own laws, can you make the case that one state is well regulated versus another state being not well regulated? Can you make the case that what happens in all these mass shootings is, violence perpetrated by a well regulated militia? And that's
or an unregulated,
or an
right.
unregulated militia. And so then I think constitutionally you're going to have the question arise, what does well regulated mean? And I
Okay.
think that's going to be the biggest question that has to be answered. And
Okay.
and what that might mean is that the average person without any training can go by manual actions like shotguns, like bolt actions, but people who have gone through a specific amount of training or a specific amount of time are considered well regulated because they're trained, they've gone through the education process, and now are capable of owning. I really think what is going to determine Second Amendment rights moving forward at some point is going to be what is the definition of a well-regulated militia.
Okay. The Ninth Amendment says that the rights within this Constitution aren't the only rights we have. So I think the same thing that gives a woman a right to medical privacy is the same thing that gives a gun owner his right to have a gun. But I like that unregulated thing. Like, what you guys know how I feel, and it was always that, like, a guy should get a gun and then he should get training, but it should be a lodge, and that should be like a VFW group, like a lodge of people that create their own code of conducts and hold themselves accountable to their group's actions. And if there was enough people like that, it would locally you would know everybody. Right? 100 people in your lodge, your kids, everybody, you're a family, you do these barbecues and hunting trips and everything together as a gun community, and you care about each other. I think what happens is when you make it 5 million people, we start caring about that 10,000, right? There's no community that's embracing them. If somebody would have embraced that kid, like any of these people months before they did this, that might have changed
Big time.
something. So I like the community aspect of it.
And you have to remember too, like the biggest issue is that with any laws that are created, there has to be some type of objective thing you can measure against in order for us to find out what is and isn't legal, what is and isn't regulated. And that's the biggest problem is that subjective does not meet the criteria for law. Like, it never has. However, there's a lot of subjectivity. There's a lot of subjectivity in how an objective law is prosecuted or charged.
And if we can't analyze it, any law is subjective. Right. All right. My final thought, I heard it on another podcast, and it was Ted Cruz wants us to have guns to protect us from a police state, but he wants to create a police state to protect us from the guns.
Well, if there's anything that we learned about what happened in Texas, the police state wasn't really all that interested in going into an active shooter situation, but the feds were.
He wants one door in and out of the school. He wants to arm the teachers. He wants to give them military. Has anybody seen 300? Do you know what one door with a shooter on the other side can be? A funnel point. You know what I mean? So, but it's
a fire hazard at best.
Yeah.
Unless you make that building out of fucking concrete.
Yeah. But 98% of gun owners want what we're talking about. Just sensible, common sense stuff.
Common sense.
If you have a kid and you're worried about your kid, give a friend your gun to hold for a couple years. Like,
absolutely.
If you're,
put it in
you know what
safe.
I mean? Like,
or lock it away.
Put it in a safe, but you just get it out of your house. Or if you feel that it needs to get out of your house, there's ways to do that. Or you don't have to give it away.
Come up with community storage options.
Right.
Where gun communities,
I love that idea.
Where communities are like, you know what, this is something that I'm going to store in an offsite location that I know is going to be monitored, locked,
and insured.
All of this other stuff.
I want like a gym membership where I can have my gun storage there, and now I can have a bazooka and I can pull that shit out and I can use it there, but then I put it back.
I'm just thinking about what the price of ammo for a fucking bazooka would be, and it just makes me want to shit myself.
But here's the other thing. here's the other
generous.
thing.
I know.
Jason can then take his bazooka out one day and offer the other members to use it. So they learn how to use it. It's a different way. But also, people don't like the idea because it's like how are you going to defend yourself if your guns are all off-site?
All I can think of is somebody fucking flagging the range with a goddamn bazooka.
Yeah. Let loose the cows.
Hey, Jason, what?
Oh, shit. Help me.
It was meat.
It's no hamburger.
They have meat, they have non-meat,
More like
and
pink
they
mist.
have was meat.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I mean,
All right.
oh, wow. That's
I love you guys. Thank you for doing this. I hate being that spot on, especially when we all haven't talked for a
Yeah,
while,
no
you
shit,
know what I
dude.
mean?
Hell yeah. That's-
So we got to get you back on so that we can talk about your flying and everything like
oh
that.
shit. Get some.
yeah.
Because what I love about Adam is he is constantly improving his
Got
life.
to, man.
You know,
Got to.
there's doers and there's sayers, and doers get somewhere and sayers don't. So I love that you're a doer,
Hell yeah.
bro.
Hell yeah.
And send me a link for your podcast,
Oh,
please,
fuck yeah, for sure.
because I'm having a hard time.
I'm
Finding
having
it
a
on
hard time-
Apple or Spotify.
I can't get them to communicate for whatever reason, so they're all over the place now. I mean, it's SoundCloud. They're in SoundCloud, but I mean, they sometimes they go into the feed for Apple. Sometimes they don't. I don't know how to fix that. I have no fucking clue. So
Okay, we'll work on
Yeah.
that then. Cool.
hell yeah, hell yeah.
All right, I love you guys. Did you have any last words, Jeffrey? I know we went a little long for you.
Oh, last words. You know what? I'm going to leave the last words to Adam because Adam has the right last words.
Nice.
Dude, I always say, hey man, everybody love everybody. God damn it.
I love you guys.
Love you too.
Love you, buddy.
Bye, Kai. Oh, bye. Wait, bye,
Bye,
friend.
friend.
Bye, Maddie.
Your friend was all over that shit. I love that.
To those who would tear the world down, we will defeat you. This is our moment. This is our time. To those who seek peace and security, we support you. Yes, we can. And to all those who have wondered if America's beacon still burns as bright, tonight we prove once more that the true strength of our nation comes not from the might of our arms or the scale of our wealth, but from the enduring power of our ideals, democracy, liberty, opportunity, and unyielding hope.
Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbow. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life.
Ask not
Yes, we can.
what your country can do for you. I have a dream. Ask what you can do for your country. My poor little children
Yes, we can.
one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. It's a depression.
In this lifetime, you don't have to prove nothing to nobody except yourself.
But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
Welcome
To Public Access America.
Yes, we can.
Sunday live streams on YouTube,
I wanted to run out of that tunnel for my dad.
on Twitter,
Everyone that I work with.
Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Smart Radio Public, and Spotify.
Yes, we can.
Public Access America. History in the making. Making history in the making.
Sometimes you need to take control to make a difference. That's why with FlexPath from Capella University, you're in control. Set your own deadlines and leverage your experience to move at a pace that works for you. Discover a different way forward at capella.edu.
Why choose proven quality sleep from Sleep Number? Because our Sleep Number 360 smart bed is really smart. It senses your movement and automatically adjusts to help keep you both comfortable. Plus, it's temperature balancing so you stay cool. It's even smart enough to know exactly how long, how well, and when you slept, and to help you get almost 30 minutes more restful sleep per night. Sleep Number takes care of the science. All you have to do is sleep. Save $1,000 on the Sleep Number 360 Special Edition Smart Bed Queen, now only $19.99, plus free premium home delivery when you add a base. Ends Monday. To learn more, go to sleepnumber.com.